I've read dozens of books on self-actualization. So what is self-actualization? We usually hear this term, but most of us don't really know what it actually means. What does it do for us? How does it make our life better? How does it alleviate suffering and pain? How does it make us feel good? How does it help us in our relationships? How does it help us in our career? How does it help us in our spirituality? How does it help us in our practical day-to-day life? So why is self-actualization even important? Why should you even do it? These are questions that are basically going to begin to get answered in this video. But right off the bat, I want to say that self-actualization is a need. When you don't get what you need, you actually become sick. Just like how if you don't get vitamin A, vitamin C, the connection you need, the safety you need, if you don't get the shelter you need, you become unwell. So self-actualization is literally the exact same thing. It's a higher order human need that when we don't get it met, we suffer. We become sick. And around only 5 to 7% of the human population has actually reached the self-actualization level of consciousness. So I'll let you think about that for a while. But a core quality of the self-actualized mind is that it's not actually in survival mode anymore. It's in what's called being psychology or being consciousness as opposed to deficiency consciousness, never having enough, always feeling unfulfilled, always feeling unsatisfied, always chasing more. Survival consciousness. It's not really stuck in that anymore. The self-actualized mind has greater awareness of itself through acceptance, which allows it to experience significantly more freedom in life. The vibes are higher, right? The emotional states are higher and they're more rich. And not only that, but they accept the lower emotional states like grief, sadness, anger, and they use their emotions in a healthy way. So a self-actualized person has integrated the full spectrum of emotional experience. So the self-actualized mind isn't really in this constant war against life. If you look around and you look at the news or politics or anything that's going on in the world for the most part, you will find struggle is very much present. There's always some form of conflict that is occurring. The self-actualized mind is not stuck in this habitual state of unconscious conflict. Why is that? The self-actualized mind's, like I said, not in that survival consciousness anymore. It has deeper understanding of why things are the way they are. Why is reality the way that it is? How does life really work? The self-actualized mind, because it doesn't struggle against life, it begins to develop a clearer perception of life. See, if you're always battling life and fighting against it, you can't really see it clearly because you're too biased. You're too busy fighting for your life. But if you're able to step back, if you're able to observe it neutrally, if you're able to actually zoom out and look at the bigger picture and the larger patterns, you begin to see reality in a clearer way that's not filtered through the lens of your personal mind or your ego. So the self-actualized mind is significantly more accepting of life and especially of oneself, one's shadow or unconsciousness, one's emotions, one's needs, one's thoughts, one's authentic self, one's past, oneself in this present moment. The self-actualized mind does not struggle against reality as much as, well, a mind that is less conscious. So this acceptance is a surrender to one's experience, like we always hear, surrender to your experience, all that stuff. So this acceptance is actually really a conscious relationship with experience. It's this shining of attention on our experience, this shining of our awareness on the unconscious aspects of our experience that drive our suffering, and that awareness of them, of that element of our experience, begins to alleviate that suffering, that struggling begins to slowly dissipate. The self-actualized person has done a lot of self-inquiry. There's a deeper connection to the inner subjective world. There's a deeper awareness of one's own subjectivity. There's a deeper awareness of one's ego and the sort of delusions and illusions of the ego. So this surrender and this acceptance is simply a letting go of struggling against experience. The self-actualized mind isn't unconsciously in this traumatic response of always struggling to get their needs met. They have integrated their needs. The way that they function in the world is more smooth. They're more in flow with their environment. They are more trusting in the sense of they don't need to constantly be, in the sense of battle against life. They trust that I will get what I need. I am patient, I'm grounded, I'm present, I'm curious, I'm open, I'm authentic, I'm spontaneous, I'm persistent, right? I'm continuously with my experience is what I mean by persistent. So the fight against experience is actually very obvious to the self-actualized mind. It's very, very obvious to the self-actualized mind when they are struggling against experience and they see that the wisest option is to actually let go of this struggling, because this unnecessary layer of struggle is a significant source of suffering. So they have this sort of Eastern philosophical approach to life, this sort of go with the flow of things, not in the sense of they are lazy or not hardworking, or in the sense of they need to be like a Buddhist or something like that. But the self-actualized mind has integrated a lot of that style of philosophy. Some examples of self-actualized people would be Abraham Maslow himself, maybe Albert Einstein, systems thinking, very big picture thinking, integrating hundreds of perspectives. People who've been meditating for a very, very long time. Those people are actually typically beyond self-actualization into self-transcendence. But essentially, the self-actualized mind actually values its energy very deeply, and it can see that this resistance that I have, this constant struggling, is burning my precious energy. So why would I do that? This burning of my energy is itself a form of suffering. So naturally, the self-actualized mind doesn't want to suffer, just like any other living creature. And it stops struggling and resisting because it's deeply aware of this and it sees the dysfunction of it. Like I said, the self-actualized mind is actually a lot more aware of experience than a mind that's always stuck in survival, always chasing, always wanting in order to fill a void, in order to avoid pain, right? In order to avoid self-inquiry. The self-actualized mind has a deeper relationship with itself. The self-actualized mind is also kind of on the verge of transcending itself, realizing that, well, it's not separate from anything in its environment, directly realizing that in experience that's actually one with all of reality, that separation itself is an illusion, right? That brings the self-actualized mind to self-transcendence. That's another video, but more importantly, right, to bring the focus back onto what this video is about. The self-actualized mind sees that letting go of control, for example, letting go of this struggle, this resistance, is the wisest move that it can actually make. So the self-actualized mind isn't afraid to let go of control. This constant struggling and fighting and resisting is a way of trying to get control. The self-actualized mind has healed its control issues and its control trauma, and it's able to let go of control, realizing that our ordinary sense of control is actually an illusion, and that if I surrender and I allow life to move through me, then I am living my most authentic and self-realized path, my most natural path. If I'm constantly grasping onto control for some reason, when we're constantly grasping onto control, we feel the most out of control, right? So the grasping onto control is itself seen as a form of suffering, and counterintuitively, it's very obvious to the self-actualized mind that this is when we are the most out of control and the furthest away from our true nature. So this deep acceptance of life, it heals trauma. It actually allows for deeper closeness in relationships because there's that emotional intelligence, there's that emotional maturity, there's that letting go of the need to be right, there's that letting go of needing to engage in unnecessary conflict, right? So that reveals deeper truths about oneself, about reality. This increases mental well-being, as I'm sure you've probably figured out by now, because I'm sure you're a very smart human being. So it improves relationships drastically. The self-actualized mind, and especially the self-transcended mind, doesn't view relationships just in terms of like, what can I get for myself but it's also focused on what can I give. It's focused on how can I fully connect? How can I be the most available for life, for my relationship? Because ultimately all of life is relationships. Our world is relative. You're in constant relationship to your surroundings, your environment, your people, your thoughts, your emotions, the parts of your psyche, etc. So this deeper acceptance also deepens gratitude for life. That sense of awe, when you look at the stars at night and there's that sense of awe, that's a normal experience for a self-actualized person. They can look at their hand and experience awe and just gratitude and see the mystery of life just in their own hand. They can see the profundity of existence just in their own hand, or in a pen, or in a cup. In ordinary, everyday life, they can tap into the mystery of life and get very curious about the most basic experiences that people take for granted because they're used to them, right? It's repeated, and we think we actually know what they are, when in actuality, we really don't. So we have a deeper gratitude for life when we self-actualize. That sense of awe, that sense of wonder is a normal thing for self-actualized people. And this strengthens one's sense of purpose. The self-actualized mind recognizes that it is in this evolution of consciousness on the planet and, really in the entire universe and the human species, right? We're in this sort of evolution of consciousness, and the self-actualized mind is basically evolution, this evolution of awareness, becoming self-aware. It's evolution realizing that it is a part of this evolutionary process, whereas when we're in survival mode, we can't grasp that. Our mind's not capable of grasping that. When we're too concerned about, just the food I'm going to put in my stomach, or we're too traumatized, and we have no spare energy to self-actualize, we can't really grasp these deeper level insights about the nature of reality, the nature of self, the nature of suffering, trauma, relationships, purpose, etc. Self-transcendence. When we're stuck in survival, we're giving all of our energy to that. Self-actualized people have excess energy that they can give to their higher needs. Most people don't even know self-actualization is a need that they have. I've coached many, many people who have no idea what their needs actually are as human beings. They don't really understand how complex their needs actually are, and they can't even list 15 to 20 of them. They aren't clear about it. They're not in touch with their needs as they arise. A self-actualized person is deeply in tune with their needs because we're wired for survival as a species, right? As human beings. And when we act, we are acting in accordance with our survival. This is a massive aspect of life, and the self-actualized person has accepted this, and it's integrated that in a very healthy way that allows for it to engage in survival in a very healthy way while simultaneously going beyond survival. So we engage in survival in a way where I get my needs met, you get your needs met, and we haven't hurt the environment or ecosystem in which we are existing. We're contributing value to life, and that giving is how we satisfy our needs. The man of value gives more than he receives. So that's it for this video. Consider picking up these books, Toward a Psychology of Being, Religions, Values, and Peak Experiences, and The Further Reaches of Human Nature, all by Abraham Maslow. These are fantastic works of art, to be honest. These are incredible books. Do not miss the opportunity to get them. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy.